Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I am thrilled to talk to my friend, Kerstin Kirchsteiger. I'm sorry for butchering your name already, because we have really similar backgrounds. Kerstin helps moms step into more of a leadership role in their homes. And as you know, I love to help moms be more authentic and empowered in their marriages and in their homes. So I just love talking to her because we both have an analytical, sciencey type background, and I'm excited to learn more about that today and see how that has led to the work that you do now. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Welcome, Beth, and thanks for having me. Yeah, shoot any questions you have.
So tell me what kind of scientist you were. What did you
um,
for?
so I studied chemistry and then went towards plant molecular biology and biochemistry.
Okay.
And I did it like all the way up until postdoc, which is what brought me to the United States.
Wow. Welcome. And you were just sharing with me how you're from Austria and just visited there, lived there for a few months and are back in California now. It's so fun. I love to talk to people who are from other countries because I feel like you just have so much more experience than Americans do. We're so used to our little bubble, and you have so many different perspectives about the way things can be. It's really cool. So tell me, how did you go from being a scientist to the role that you're in now as a coach for leaders and for moms?
It's been quite a journey. So like I said, I did the academic track. I came here to do a postdoc to the United States with my back then newlywed husband, because he wanted to come to the States and it was the only option. He could come with me. So we got married just before, and then we came here. And I did the typical postdoc thing where you work, and but it also, I was at an elevated age for thinking about family already. So we started to talk about it, and I got pregnant with my first during my postdoc. And then I did the typical stay at home for a little bit, as much as I could get, because I had to go back to do my postdoc. But I took as much time as I could with vacation time and family leave and sick leave. So
Yeah.
I really, really pushed it out, because where I come from, you usually have a year or two or even 3 if you want. You choose how long you want to stay home.
Wow.
But then it was time for him to go back, or for me to go back to work, and for him to go to a daycare. And I really struggled with that separation. I struggled with focusing at work, doing the whole pumping thing. I had to walk to a different building to be able to get to a lactation room. And so it was a really difficult time for me. And then when the end of my postdoc came, I decided to stay home, and I got pregnant with my second. And we were these far away from home, no influence from any family members, those typical attachment parents. Like, we really wanted or yearned for this deep connection with the kids, and being with them, spending time with them, rather than shuffling them off to daycare and go to work. So we realized that really, really early on. But however, I'm not a US citizen, so visa issues came into play, and I had to be a stay-at-home mom. And then when my daughter turned 2.5, I was so ready to get her into daycare, because I was looking for adult conversations again. I was so isolated, and I don't know, like those playground dates that you had where it's all about your kids and nothing about yourself anymore. That was just too much for me. So I was already working towards going back to work. However, my son started school refusal. My daughter never really could handle the school or the preschool at the time really well. So it became apparent that while I was trying to go back to work, a routine or regular 9 to 5 will not work out for me because my kids wanted to do homeschooling. And so what I've been doing in the meantime, I did a lot of different trainings. I explored yoga for a little bit. I'm a mountain bike aficionado. So I explored and I became certified mountain bike instructor and worked for a company for a little bit, but it was not family friendly because those classes were on the weekends, which then my husband would have been home alone with the kids. So it was a long journey into what do I really want to do? What skills do I have? Where can I bring value? And what is something that I can make work with my family time?
Yeah.
And so for me, eventually what it was is I became a certified emotional intelligence practitioner. So my whole idea was to go into companies and do emotional intelligence assessments for teams and leaders, and then the appropriate training, wherever the skills were lacking, bringing in that training into companies to create a better company culture.
Oh, wow.
And then through the pandemic, what I noticed is that a lot of parents suddenly struggled. They struggled with having their kids home all day long, with anxiety, with all the uncertainty from the pandemic, and emotional intelligence and all the tools that you can learn. They can be so valuable to not only create. I mean, eventually, what I want to do now is to create a better, a thriving family culture.
Yeah.
Through those tools that we use in emotional intelligence. And I think especially or specifically moms often struggle with not being able to voice their needs, not being able to have these deeper, authentic conversations that might be difficult to have, but eventually they're necessary to have. Otherwise there's resentment and there's too much strain on the relationships. So I don't know if that answered your question. It was a little long-winded, but I ended up with leadership training and emotional intelligence training, and I'm bringing that to corporations, but also to families now.
I love that you explored so many different things, because I can totally relate to that. I'm so interested in everything, and I feel like, well, I can do lots of things. What's the one thing that I need to do? And I love that you explored mountain biking and emotional intelligence and yoga, and that makes you so well-rounded and really able to help people, because there's definitely different skills in there. I mean, I talked to my friend, Deb Blum, and she mountain bikes, and it's the stuff she does all the time. It's like so brave to me, and she really has to be in her body and take care of herself. So I think that's pretty brilliant that you actually did that. In yoga, of course, does all kinds of help for trauma and emotional release. So it's beautiful that you can bring that background to what you're doing now. It's very smart. And so you help women speak up for what they need. And of course, this is near and dear to my heart, because it was really hard for me to do that without feeling guilty or feeling like, I was creating a hardship for others, for my kids or for my husband. I remember when my daughter was born, and I pretty much just like followed her around and stared at her all the time, because I thought I wouldn't be a good parent if I was like doing my own thing. So what do you tell moms, or how do you help moms who feel like, asking for what they need or taking care of themselves first is kind of selfish, or they feel some guilt around it?
Well, there's many different things that you can do, but I think what we have to first dig into is those beliefs. Why do we think stating what we need is seen as needy, as not enough, as not good enough, as constantly asking for something? So there's a lot of belief shifts that have to happen. And those are usually, honestly, the most difficult to work through. But I think once you get to that understanding that every need that you don't state is going to bring so much resentment, because it's often in those conversations that are not being had that is much more damaging than the conversations that you have with somebody, right? And so when we have to kind of become aware that everything that we just swallow and not talk about or not mention, or I don't know, sometimes we're so afraid of conflict, and conflict can be really good. I mean, it can be really, it can become ugly, and it shouldn't. But a debate around something, or having a difficult conversation, saying how you feel about things, and keeping it to yourself, to your vision, and to your point of view, not vision, is really important, because we often forget that everything we see and live and experience, we filter it through our previous experiences. And I think this is important to keep in mind, that when we have difficult conversations, we have to start with saying, hey, this is how I feel, or I just heard you say that. Is that what you said? Rather than say, you always do this, or you know. So there's certainly some tools that can be learned, like how to have those conversations, some background of how and why we perceive certain things, or why we filter. But I think the most important is the belief shift, to say that I am worthy, I have my needs, and I need them met, or I'm not gonna be, I mean, either way, you're not gonna be happy. Either way, you're gonna be
That's right.
Feeling, overlooked or used or resentful.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge one. That was my journey, was feeling really resentful and feeling like I was doing it all and not getting help, but it was really the way I was asking for help was very passive aggressive and not productive, I guess. It just made things a lot worse, and I was continued to be stuck in that anger and that resentment. So I know that one of the ways that you approach this is encouraging moms to be the leader in their home. So how do you, because I think where I get kind of stuck with this is, how do you share your feelings and needs through your perspective and lead? Because I think the perspective of leadership is often like a controlling or demanding, or here's our job, here you go do it. Like, how do you do it without like assigning jobs?
Yes. So what I want moms, I mainly work with moms, but it's actually for the parents as a whole. What I want them to recognize is that they set the tone in their home, they set the culture, they set the values. And so if you step into this leadership state, then you can use different tools. And one of my favorite tools is the family meetings, for example. Like you said, I don't see leadership as top-down barking orders. This is what you do, because nobody wants to hear it, right? I mean, even us, I don't know if your audience is familiar with positive discipline, but there's one exercise that they usually do in the beginning, where adults line up and they're being barked orders, like, put your shoes on, do this, do that. And then they ask, and how did that make you feel? Right? Because nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to be told what to do. It's all about the leader, the emotionally intelligent leader, is recognizing the people you work with. So recognizing their strengths, recognizing their weaknesses or challenges, we like to call it challenges, and supporting, right? So you identify, what are they good at? How can I support that? And where are their challenges where I need to find other ways of support? And so the tool that I was mentioning, the family meetings, for example, it's really great once you get into it, because it gives, it's a specific time and date and space where you bring up everything and anything around the house, like maybe the daily rhythm, maybe, when it's not working anymore, or if, for us, for example, we just came back from Europe from a long time. So we have to set up a new rhythm and routine around how life is going to happen. And we want to do this collaboratively. So we will have a family meeting and we will talk about what everybody wants to do, what is important to them, what are some, I don't know, like sports, for example. For us now, we're a homeschooling family, so we're pretty flexible. Any activities that they would like to have more of in their life, and everybody, and this is the more important part, everybody around the table, on the table, can say something and can put their needs up. And then we try to make a pattern out of it. Then we try to make a weekly, a daily rhythm, which already, it does two things. It makes it predictable, which is good for our brain. It gives us certainty. It gives us calm when we know what's coming. And for the kids especially, I mean, mine I think are similar your age. Like mine are now 8 and 5. So predictability is huge because it helps them know what's going to happen next, and you don't have to argue so much, or you don't have to rush, or you don't have, The other thing is, if you do this in a setting where everybody gets listened to and gets a voice, they buy into it. They agree to something. Like the solution that you find is a collaborative solution, which means when there's a day and they don't want to get ready, or they don't want to, I don't know, fold their laundry or pick up their clothes or pick up their toys, you say, well, we agreed on this. Do you remember that? Like, can you, we were all sitting together and we found a common solution, like by, I don't know what solutions could there be. Like, for example, by 5 p.m., you want the living room clear of toys, for example. So it really helps everybody feeling seen and heard and being part, they're feeling important, which makes them step up. And like I said, everybody should put their needs on it, and that's important for the moms. Like, if you need support, talk about it. Like, kids are very capable of helping a lot, and your partner is too. So it's a perfect space because it's usually conflict free, right? You don't do those meetings when there is a conflict happening. You if it's a huge conflict, you want to resolve it then and there, right? But if it's, I don't know, arguing between the siblings, it doesn't always have to be. But you could say in the meeting, for example, you could say, well, this has been happening more often, or I've been noticing that you're not, I don't know, able to share something or able to play together. Is there anything that we could change? So
that's really brilliant. What I hear in that, the very first thing is that you are accepting everybody as they are for, like you said, their strengths and their challenges. And then it's brilliant to get their buy-in by having them choose what they're going to do. So one question I do have, though, is I know that I tried to do some meetings early on in the beginning, and I was having trouble even getting people to the table. What if your husband pushes back and doesn't even want to get up and join you? Do you have any tricks for?
This is very common, actually. And it also felt, for my family, it felt weird in the beginning to have meetings. But now it's my kids. Like, when they see something is not going as well, and it's like, I think we should have a meeting about this. So it's really, you gotta get used to it. You gotta make them regular enough, I think. Or the most important thing that I can think of is to make them a safe space. To really, especially if it's the kids, for example, to make it clear that they're not in trouble. This is just, we are 4 people in my house, for example. We are 4 people, and we would like to find a way how to work it out more smoothly, for example. Or, I don't know. For me, it's usually, I'm a morning person, so I got up early in the morning, and then by the evening, my energy is a little drained. So in the evening, I'm more irritable. And so for me, it's really important for them to know that I need solutions for the evening, that I can get some rest, or I can get quiet at least. And, and so it's important to say those things, like, you're not in trouble. I'm just trying, I want to hear your side of the story, for example, but it takes practice.
Yeah. Well, I love that you've modeled it so well now that they know it's a tool. How brilliant for them to have that skill, and not only for just in their day-to-day lives, but in their future relationships, to know that, you can have discussion and make sure everybody feels heard. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
And what I would like to add is oftentimes the day-to-day struggles, they have us so overwhelmed that we can't really see the future outcome.
Yeah.
But with these family meetings, or when you step into this leading by example, leading by, listening and trying to find collaborative solutions, you're really teaching them skills that are so valuable for their life, like much more important than arithmetic, or it's because
Absolutely.
it is what's going to make the difference, right? Empathy, collaboration, problem solving. These are the skills that the kids really need, and us adults sometimes still too, right? I mean, I was being trained to go into corporations to teach those skills to adults, and now think if you could bring that into your home and already teach that to your kids. I mean, it's seriously, those are super valuable tools and amazing skills they're learning.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I'm passionate about ending divorce culture, and that would certainly be something that would do that. If we can know how to work with people and make sure everybody's needs are met, then there's no feeling of being caged by the relationship that we're in most cases.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you. Many people believe that time management is the key to work-life balance, but you say it's relationships. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that?
I know it's weird, but honestly, I think if you have good relationships and you need more time for work one day, there's nothing, you're not going to damage your relationship.
Mm.
It's so much more of having a good connection, and the times that you have to connect to your family or to your kids or your partner, if you can make it quality time where you're really intentional with your time and your attention, that's going to go much, much further than trying to spend a whole day with your kid, but being on your phone, or, so time management is certainly a skill that helps to get organized and everything. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I think the key is in the relationships, because then they can be understanding of if something comes up, if there's something you have to do last minute, or if they have to do, for example, kids the age my kids are, they are very self-absorbed still, right? So for them, it's important to learn that not everything revolves around their their interests and their lives. So this is another part of the relationship part. They know that we are four people. They know that everybody needs different things at different times. As an example, I can tell a story. My son just started skateboarding, and he wanted to go to the skate park every day. And my daughter is younger, so she doesn't skateboard, but she needs to ride somewhere where she can ride her bike, for example. And so we found a solution by going to a pump track where she could ride her bike and he could ride his skateboard.
Oh, there you go.
And then when it was raining, for example, the solution where we were going to go in an indoor skate park. So it's in this relationship where you can make things happen, where the understanding and the empathy comes for, hey, it's not only me that's important, it's about all of us.
Yeah.
And I think this is much more important for, I don't know, work-life integration, for example, I talk a lot about. And so
Yeah, because you can go back to that meeting and again let everybody say how you problem solve together is the way I've always referred to it, but make sure everybody's needs are met. And because you've got the emotional intelligence background, you can also support your kids when they are disappointed, because you have to say no to something, which we have to do all the time. But the most important thing is, like you said, presence, and then supporting them through that emotion that they're feeling. So I love it. I love it. I know you have a really cool tool available on your website. And I was actually going to do this, and I need to go grab yours to help with executive functioning. You have a checklist that people can download to use with their kids. So tell me about that.
So let me tell you why. So the thing is, it's a checklist. I made a couple of checklists for my kids because we love to go camping, but it always felt so overwhelming for me to not forget anything and to pack for 4 people. And, and usually camping, we go on the weekend. So my husband used to be in the office and I was preparing everything for 4 people, and it was just getting too much and I couldn't do it. And I love camping and we love it when we are there. But the stress on me was huge. So one day I just decided to make a checklist for my kids so they can pack their bags. And I made a checklist for myself for the camping stuff, like for the, equipment, but also for the food, to really make it easier for me to, it's a lot of mental load if you try to keep it all in your mind, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you.
And so this has actually evolved into a checklist for sports, checklist for getting out of the door, checklist for going to the beach, for example. And a lot of people, I think, are interested in it because they think, okay, I give this checklist to my kid and they're going to do it, which is partly true. But, you have to invest in teaching the skills. It has to be relevant to them. And so that's important to keep in mind. It's not a quick fix solution. Mm-hmm. If your kids don't have the skills to be able to do the checklist, they're not going to want to do it. But for example, this winter, my kids, they had never been to the snow and they learned skiing. And it was a totally new way of getting dressed for skiing. And so my son was struggling again with getting ready. Executive function is an area where he struggles with. Mm-hmm. And so he said, I think it would help if you made me a checklist. So again, see, they recognize those tools. Like once you identify what helps them, they actually recognize, hey, this is really helpful. So I have those checklists.
So smart, because just like us, they get that little dopamine hit every time they check off the thing they did. And yes. I would add that these are visual. You have pictures for each item, so if your kids can't yes. yet, they can still see what to do next, which is just yes. brilliant. I was getting ready to make like exactly what you made, and then I saw you post it one day, and like, yes, that's brilliant. Yeah. So smart. So yes. Tell people where they can go get that.
Okay, so it's my website. I think it might be easier if you link to it because it's my first and last name. So it's kerstinkirchsteiger.com/checklist. So that's www.kerstinkirchsteiger.com/checklist.
Beautiful. And we'll link to it. And I know on your website, you also have a blueprint that they can get to work with these meetings. And then you do coaching and leadership. Would you call it consulting, or are they group trainings?
It's group coaching. Okay. For the families, it's group coaching. For our companies, it's consulting and coaching.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. One last question for you is, what do you hope that your children learn about leadership through you?
Oof, that's a heavy question. Honestly, I think what is most important to me is that they recognize that we all have different needs, and that as different as the needs and our individual, like I said, strengths and challenges are, you can build up on this. Like you can support people to get the best out of a team.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much, Kerstin. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so excited for you and what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.